The stars shimmered against the black canvas of space as Dr. Henry Miller peered through his telescope at the NASA Observatory in New Mexico. For years, he had studied unusual signal patterns from the edge of our solar system. But tonight was different. The signals had stopped completely. "Susan, are you seeing this?" Henry called out to his colleague, Susan Ward, who monitored the computer screens nearby. "All readings just dropped to zero," Susan replied, her brow furrowed with concern. "That's not possible unless—" A blinding light cut her off mid-sentence. They rushed to the window and stared in awe as a massive object descended through Earth's atmosphere, leaving a trail of blue energy in its wake. The object was unlike anything humans had ever built, sleek, metallic, and at least the size of 10 aircraft carriers stacked together. News of the arrival spread across the globe within hours. Military forces worldwide went on high alert as the vessel positioned itself above the Atlantic Ocean, hovering there in silent display of power. 3 days passed without any communication. World leaders gathered at the United Nations in New York, arguing about how to respond to this unprecedented event. Some wanted to attack immediately. Others cautioned patience. On the 4th day, as Henry and Susan were called to join a special scientific committee, the alien ship finally made contact. Every television, radio, computer, and phone on Earth simultaneously broadcast the same message in perfect English. "People of Earth, the Galactic Veteran Empire acknowledges your existence. Your presence has been noted in our registry of developing worlds. We will arrive at your United Nations building in 12 hours to discuss terms of your absorption into our empire." Panic swept across cities worldwide. Religious groups claimed it was the end times. Military forces surrounded the UN building. And in the midst of this chaos, Susan Ward received a call informing her that she would be part of the 5-person team selected to meet with the aliens. "Why me?" she asked the voice on the other end of the line. "Because you're the leading expert in theoretical alien communication protocols," the voice replied. "And because the president trusts you." 12 hours later, exactly as promised, a smaller vessel detached from the mothership and descended onto the UN plaza. The world watched through countless cameras as a door slid open, revealing tall, slender figures with grayish-blue skin and 4 arms each. Their leader stepped forward. 8 feet tall with ornate markings across its face, it wore what appeared to be a living armor that shifted colors with each movement. "I am Imperial Ambassador Krax Tull," it announced, its voice surprisingly melodic. "I speak with the full authority of the Veteran Empire, which spans 812 worlds across this galactic arm." The human delegation, led by the UN Secretary-General, welcomed the ambassador into the building. Susan found herself seated directly across from Krax Tull in the Security Council chamber. "Let us dispense with pleasantries," the ambassador said. "Your world has 2 options: join the Empire as a vassal species, or face immediate planetary sterilization. Those who submit will be permitted to live productive lives, serving imperial interests. Those who resist will be removed." Susan felt her mouth go dry. "Ambassador, surely there must be room for a third option, perhaps a mutual partnership." Krax Tull's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture they would later learn indicated amusement. "Your species has barely mastered basic space travel. You have nothing to offer as partners." The ambassador touched a device on its wrist, and the room's walls seemed to disappear, replaced by images of planets being destroyed by weapons of unimaginable power. This was the Keldari homeworld. They also suggested partnership. The room fell silent. "You have 30 standard Earth days to submit your formal acceptance of imperial rule. During this time, our ships will maintain position above your major cities as a reminder of the consequences of defiance." With that, the ambassador rose to leave, but paused at the door. "I should mention, we have observed your fictional tales of resistance against superior forces. Such narratives are charming but dangerous. Know that 43 species before you harbored similar delusions. None exist today except as subjects of the Empire." After the veterans departed, Susan looked at her fellow humans, seeing in their eyes the same mixture of fear and determination she felt herself. "We need to call Henry," she whispered to the Secretary General. "He's been studying their signals. He might know something, anything, that could help us." The clock was ticking. 30 days to decide the fate of humanity. The emergency summit at the United Nations began just 12 hours after the Veshran ultimatum. Leaders from every nation on Earth gathered in the large conference hall, faces grim with the weight of their decision. Susan Ward sat near the front, her notes spread before her. "We cannot simply surrender," said the American president, her voice firm despite the dark circles under her eyes. "But we've all seen their technology. How can we fight something like that?" The room erupted into overlapping voices until a sharp whistle cut through the noise. All eyes turned to a man standing at the side entrance. Colonel Jack Donovan walked slowly to the center of the room, his military uniform crisp despite looking like he hadn't slept in days. "With respect, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen," he said, "I believe I have information that might help us." Susan watched as Donovan activated a holographic display showing dozens of star systems. "For the past 5 years, I've led a classified military intelligence unit studying unusual radio transmissions from deep space. We've intercepted messages that, until yesterday, made little sense." The hologram zoomed in on specific planets, each marked with dates. "These are records of the Veshran Empire's conquests. Over 40 species, each given the same choice we were given. Submit or die." Gasps filled the room as images appeared of alien worlds being destroyed or occupied. "And here's the important part," Donovan continued. "Every species that submitted is now essentially enslaved. The Veshrans strip mine their planets, use the populations for labor, and take whatever resources they want. So there's no good option," the Chinese premier said quietly. "Fight and die, or submit and slowly die anyway." The door opened again, and Dr. Henry Miller entered with a woman no one recognized. She carried a secure briefcase handcuffed to her wrist. "This is Dr. Olivia Green," Henry announced. "And she might have our only hope." Olivia placed her briefcase on the table and unlocked it with a fingerprint and retinal scan. Inside was a small device that looked like a crystal surrounded by complex circuitry. "Project Phoenix," she said simply. 8 years ago, we detected unusual energy signatures from passing Veshran scout ships. We didn't know what they were then, but we studied the radiation patterns and developed this." She activated the device, and a small field of energy formed above it. "This can disrupt their shield technology. Not for long, and not their largest ships, but it's a start." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "You're suggesting we fight them?" asked the Secretary General. Colonel Donovan stepped forward again. "We're suggesting we appear to prepare for submission while secretly preparing for resistance." Over the next hours, the assembled leaders debated fiercely. Some insisted surrender was the only way to save lives. Others argued that surrender meant slow extinction anyway. In the end, a vote was taken. The Defiance Protocol passed with 87% support. 3 days later, Susan found herself in an underground facility 50 meters beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room was filled with advanced technology and staffed by the brightest minds from around the world. Dr. Miller worked at a console nearby while Colonel Donovan briefed a team of Special Forces soldiers from 24 countries. "Susan, we need you," Henry called, waving her over to where he stood with Dr. Green and a young man she didn't recognize. "This is Ryan Carter," Olivia introduced them. "Former NASA engineer turned private sector genius. He's built something you need to see." Ryan led them to a sealed chamber. Inside were what looked like mechanical insects the size of hummingbirds. "Stealth drones," Ryan explained, "designed to infiltrate the Veshran mothership. They use the aliens' own shielding frequency to mask their presence." "Can they get past their security?" Susan asked. "They already have," Ryan smiled, pointing to a large screen showing the interior of what could only be an alien vessel. "We've been gathering intelligence for 2 days now." Susan's eyes widened as she watched alien beings moving through corridors, working at stations, and communicating in their strange language. "We've discovered something important," Henry said. "The veterans aren't as numerous as they want us to believe. They rely heavily on intimidation and technology." And Olivia added, "They have a very specific weakness we can exploit. Their ships use a unique radiation signature that we can track and potentially target." Susan looked at the determined faces around her. "So we're really doing this, taking on an empire with thousands of years of advanced technology." Colonel Donovan joined them, his face set in a grim smile. 26 days left until their deadline. 26 days to prepare the biggest surprise in human history. Susan Ward stood before the veteran ambassador with a practiced smile that hid her true feelings. This was her third meeting with Craxtull in the past week, each one designed to buy humanity more time. "Ambassador, I bring news that the Earth Council is making progress toward accepting imperial rule," she said, sliding over a tablet with false reports of human preparations. "However, we need clarification on several points about the transition process." The towering alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, that gesture of amusement that Susan had grown to hate. "Your species' bureaucracy is tedious, but not unexpected for primitives," Craxtull said. "What clarifications do you require?" As Susan engaged the ambassador in a lengthy discussion about meaningless details of planetary governance, a different scene was unfolding 200 miles above Earth. 3 of Ryan Carter's stealth drones slipped through a maintenance hatch on the Veshrine mothership, their synthetic bodies barely larger than a human hand. Ryan controlled them from the underground base, his fingers dancing across a specialized interface. "I'm in," he whispered to Henry and Colonel Donovan, who watched the drone feeds intently, heading for what appears to be their central data core. The drones crawled through narrow maintenance tunnels, designed to mimic the ship's native repair mechanisms. They reached a massive chamber filled with glowing crystalline structures. "That's it," Henry said excitedly. "Based on the radiation signature, that's their main database." One drone extended a specialized connection port and linked with the alien system. Data began flowing immediately. "It's working," Ryan said, his eyes widening as alien symbols flashed across his screen. "But I don't know how long before they detect the intrusion." Back in the Veshrine diplomatic chamber, Susan noticed a subtle shift in the ambassador's demeanor. One of the alien's 4 hands moved to touch a communication device. "Is something wrong, Ambassador?" she asked, heart pounding. Craxtull paused, then lowered the hand. "Nothing of consequence. A minor alert from our maintenance systems." Susan forced herself to breathe normally. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion tomorrow. I know you must have many duties." In the underground base, Ryan was downloading massive amounts of data while Dr. Olivia Green analyzed it in real time. "This is incredible," she said, pointing to a specific section of code. "Their shielding systems operate on a frequency that becomes unstable when exposed to certain electromagnetic ranges. Can we exploit that?" Colonel Donovan asked. "Absolutely," Olivia replied. "We'd need to modify our satellite network, but we could create a global disruption grid." As Ryan's drones finished their data extraction and began retreating, Henry made another discovery. "Look at this population data," he said, pointing to a chart. "The Veshrines are far fewer in number than they projected. Most of their empire consists of automated systems and subjugated species doing the actual work." The colonel leaned closer. "So they're vulnerable to a coordinated attack if we can temporarily disable their technological advantage." One of the drones suddenly sent back an alarm signal before its feed went dark. "They found one," Ryan said tensely. "The other 2 are still clear, almost out." The second drone transmitted images from a different section of the ship, a massive holding area filled with beings of various shapes and sizes, all working under the watchful eyes of Veshrine guards. "Slaves," Olivia whispered, "from other conquered worlds." The final drone made it to the exit point and transmitted one last piece of data before escaping. coordinates for what appeared to be other subjugated planets in nearby star systems. When Susan returned to the base hours later, the team had compiled their findings. The Veshrans treat conquered species as resources, Henry explained grimly. They harvest not just materials but living beings for labor, experimentation, and even food. We've identified at least 3 nearby star systems with species that might help us if we could contact them, Ryan added. And most importantly, Olivia said, activating a holographic display, we've found their weakness. Their shield technology can't operate correctly within these specific electromagnetic frequency ranges. Susan looked at the assembled data, the proof of Veshran atrocities, and the glimpse of hope their discoveries provided. So now we have a plan, Colonel Donovan said, bringing up a tactical display. We call it Operation Firebird. Susan nodded, a fierce determination replacing her earlier fear. How soon can we begin? 19 days until the deadline, the colonel replied. And every second counts. 2 weeks remained before the Veshran deadline. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the command center for Operation Firebird hummed with activity. World leaders had agreed to the plan 3 days earlier, and now the entire planet worked in secret harmony while maintaining the illusion of preparing for submission. Dr. Olivia Green stood before a wall of screens showing satellites being modified all across the globe. Technicians in spacesuits worked on delicate equipment while keeping regular communications with Veshran observers to avoid suspicion. How many are ready? Colonel Donovan asked as he entered the room. 63%, Olivia replied. We need at least 85% for global coverage of the EM disruption grid. Will we make it in time? We have to, she said simply. In another section of the base, Ryan Carter worked with a team of programmers and engineers on a special project. Surrounded by servers and complex equipment, they were building something unprecedented. The AI framework is stable, Ryan announced, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Prometheus is coming online. A soft blue light filled the room as screens displayed a neural network taking shape. This artificial intelligence system had been designed with one purpose: to coordinate the global defense network during the coming battle. Hello, Prometheus, Ryan said. Can you understand me? Affirmative. A calm voice replied. I am operational and ready to serve. Current mission: assist in Earth's defense against Veshran invasion forces. Ryan looked at his team with tired but triumphant eyes. It works. Meanwhile, in a secure hangar nearby, Colonel Donovan addressed 200 soldiers from nations that had been enemies just weeks before. These elite fighters stood together now, unified by a common threat. You've all been chosen for your exceptional skills, the colonel told them. Each of you represents the best your countries have to offer. You'll be the first humans to engage the Veshrans directly. He activated a holographic display showing alien physiology and equipment. These are your targets. Memorize their vulnerabilities. When the EM grid drops their shields, you'll have a short window to strike. The soldiers studied the information with intense focus. Among them was Sergeant Alan Parker, a Marine who had lost his family in a tornado the previous year. He had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Sir, Alan asked, what are our odds of success? Colonel Donovan looked him in the eye. Better than they think we have. In the medical wing, Dr. Henry Miller made a surprising discovery. He had been studying samples of Veshran tissue obtained by the stealth drones, looking for biological weaknesses. Susan, come see this, he called excitedly as Susan Ward entered the lab. He showed her a Petri dish where Veshran tissue cells were rapidly breaking down. What am I looking at? She asked. I exposed the sample to various sound frequencies. This particular vibration -438 Hz causes their cellular structure to lose cohesion. Susan's eyes widened. You're saying we can incapacitate them with sound? Not kill them, but yes, render them temporarily helpless. Something about this frequency disrupts their neural pathways. In the command center, the team gathered to review their progress. Operation Firebird now had multiple components. the satellite EM disruption grid, the Prometheus I coordinator, the Special Forces strike teams, and now a sonic weapon. This is starting to feel possible, Susan said. It's more than possible, Colonel Donovan replied. But we need to discuss something important. He brought up images of Veshran weapons capabilities. Once we start this, there's no going back. They will retaliate with everything they have. Millions could die before we win, if we win. The room fell silent as everyone considered the stakes. What's the alternative? Dr. Green asked. Generations of slavery, watching our planet being stripped bare. Ryan spoke up from his workstation. Prometheus has run simulations. Even with high casualties, humanity survives by fighting. Submission leads to extinction within 3 generations. Colonel Donovan looked at each of them in turn. Then we proceed. But remember what we're fighting for. Not just to kill Veshrans, but to save humanity. Susan nodded. We answer their fire with fire of our own. 13 days remained until the deadline. The clock was ticking, and the greatest gamble in human history was about to begin. 3 days before the deadline, Susan Ward sat across from Ambassador Crax Tull in what had become their regular meeting room. She passed him a tablet showing false documents of Earth's surrender preparations. As you can see, Ambassador, we are on schedule to formally accept Imperial rule, she said with practiced calm. The world leaders just need to finalize a few details about the transition government. The Veshran studied her with all 4 eyes. Something in his posture had changed since their last meeting. Interesting, he said, placing the tablet down slowly. Yet our sensors detected unusual activity at several of your satellite installations yesterday. Susan's heart pounded, but her face remained neutral. Routine maintenance, I believe. Is there a problem? Before the ambassador could answer, a Veshran officer burst into the room, speaking rapidly in their clicking language. Craxtful rose to his full height, all 4 arms tensing. It seems, Ms. Ward, that your species has made a grave error in judgment. Across the globe, alarms began to sound. The Veshran mothership had deployed smaller attack vessels that now descended toward major military installations. The aliens had discovered Operation Firebird. In Chicago, massive energy beams cut through skyscrapers, turning glass and steel into molten rivers. Sydney's harbor boiled as Veshran weapons targeted the hidden submarine base beneath its waters. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, chaos erupted as reports flooded in. They know, Colonel Donovan shouted, rushing into the control room. Someone leaked information, or they detected our preparations. Dr. Green's fingers flew across her control panel. The EM grid is only at 78% capacity. We're not ready. Ryan Carter worked frantically to bring Prometheus fully online. The AI needs another 12 hours for full integration with our defense systems. A technician reported, Veshran ground forces are deploying in Asia, Europe, and North America. They're securing strategic locations. On the main screen, they watched as Susan was roughly seized by Veshran guards and dragged from the meeting room. They've taken Susan, Henry said, his face pale. Colonel Donovan made a swift decision. We have no choice. We launch now with what we have. He turned to Dr. Green. Activate the grid. But it's not at full capacity, she protested. It's now or never. On his screen, Ryan saw a message from Prometheus. I can compensate for grid deficiencies by rerouting satellite paths. Probability of success, 63%. Do it, Ryan told the AI. Across Earth, hidden defense systems prepared to activate. Meanwhile, the Veshrans continued their assault, believing they had caught humanity unprepared. In orbit, Susan was brought aboard the Veshran command ship. Ambassador Crax Tull met her in what appeared to be a control center. Did you truly believe we wouldn't detect your pitiful resistance plans? He asked. We have conquered 43 species more advanced than yours. Susan said nothing, scanning the room for information that might help her people. You will watch as we demonstrate what happens to those who defy the Empire, Crax Tull continued. Chicago was just the beginning. On a large display, Susan saw veteran troops advancing through Washington, D.C., but something strange was happening. The aliens were moving slower than before, struggling against Earth's gravity and atmosphere. Colonel Donovan had noticed this too. From a forward command post, he watched veteran soldiers laboring to breathe Earth's air. "Our atmosphere affects them," he told his team. "They're vulnerable outside their environmental suits." He ordered his special forces to engage, and for the first time, humans fought veterans directly. Despite advanced alien weapons, the special forces had one key advantage. They were fighting on home ground. Back at the command center, Henry made a desperate call. "We need to accelerate the Firebird protocol. Susan is captive on their command ship. Once we activate the EM grid, that ship will be hit too." "We have no choice," Dr. Green replied grimly. "Millions are dying every hour we wait." Ryan looked up from his console. "Prometheus says we'll have one chance. When the grid activates, it will create a resonance cascade through their fleet. The disruption will last 90 seconds at most." Colonel Donovan's voice came through their communications. "Then that's all the time we need." Dr. Green began the final countdown. Across the world, hidden satellites aligned into their attack positions. "May God help us all," she whispered as she pressed the activation command. A pulse of invisible energy swept across the planet as the EM disruption grid activated. For a brief moment, everything electronic on Earth flickered. Then, high above, the veteran ships shuddered as their shields failed. In the command center, Prometheus spoke through every speaker. "Grid functioning at 78% capacity. Shield disruption confirmed. 90-second window initiated. Coordinating global counterattack." All across Earth, hidden weapons platforms emerged from their disguises. Communication satellites revealed themselves as orbital defense stations. Underground silos opened to launch specialized missiles designed to target veteran vulnerabilities. Colonel Donovan led his special forces toward the largest veteran ground deployment in North America. Each soldier carried weapons modified to emit the 438 Hz frequency that Dr. Miller had discovered. As they approached, they activated the sonic disruptors. The effect was immediate. Veteran soldiers collapsed, their forearms clutching at their heads. Those that managed to remain standing fired wildly, unable to aim properly. "It works," Surgeon Alan Parker shouted over the comm system. "The sound frequency is working." Aboard the veteran command ship, chaos erupted as systems failed and alarms blared. Susan Ward found herself momentarily forgotten as her captors rushed to respond to the crisis. She slipped away from her guards and ducked into a service corridor she had spotted earlier. "I need to find their communication hub," she whispered to herself, using her diplomatic training to stay calm despite the terror flooding through her. Back on Earth, Dr. Green monitored the grid's performance. 60 seconds of disruption remaining, she announced. Ryan Carter worked with Prometheus to maximize the effectiveness of their attack. "Prometheus has hacked into the veteran communication systems," he reported, broadcasting their vulnerabilities to all Earth forces now. On screens across the world, tactical information appeared, showing exactly where to hit the alien vessels. In orbit, what appeared to be ordinary weather satellites suddenly fired concentrated energy beams at the vulnerable veteran ships. The smaller attack vessels, caught without their shields, exploded or spun out of control. Dr. Miller made another discovery as he analyzed real-time data from the battles. "Water," he shouted. "Their skin burns on contact with water. It's like acid to them." This information was immediately relayed to ground forces, who began using fire hydrants and water cannons as weapons against the invaders. In Washington, D.C., firefighters turned their hoses on the veteran troops. The aliens screamed in pain as the water touched them, their skin smoking and dissolving. On the veteran command ship, Susan found an access terminal. Using knowledge gleaned from Ryan's drone intelligence, she managed to access the ship's internal systems. She located the communications hub and made her way toward it. 30 seconds of disruption remaining. Dr. Green's voice echoed through the command center. Colonel Donovan's forces had secured key positions around the main veteran landing zone. "We need more time," he radioed. "We don't have it," Ryan replied. "Once their shields reactivate, we'll lose our advantage." Prometheus offered a solution: initiating secondary grid protocol, calculating optimal satellite reconfiguration. The AI had discovered a way to extend the disruption by another 30 seconds by sacrificing half the satellite network. "Do it," Dr. Green ordered. Susan reached the communications hub on the veteran ship. Inside, frantic aliens worked to restore their systems. She remained hidden, watching and listening, gathering critical intelligence about their command structure. She overheard a senior officer speaking in English. "The Imperial fleet has been notified. Main battle group arriving in 6 hours. These humans will pay for their resistance." Across Earth, the counterattack continued with surprising success. Humanity's coordinated assault had caught the veterans unprepared. They had expected easy submission, not organized resistance. From his command post, Colonel Donovan watched as a veteran ship crashed into the Potomac River. "We're actually winning," he said in disbelief. But then Prometheus delivered sobering news. "Alert! Multiple spatial distortions detected at edge of solar system. Analysis indicates large-scale fleet arrival imminent." The real battle was just beginning. The veteran empire was sending its main force. 5 hours after Earth's initial counterattack, the planet experienced an uneasy calm. Veteran forces had retreated to defensive positions, waiting for reinforcements. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, world leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. "We've won the first battle, but the war is just beginning," Colonel Donovan said, pointing to long-range sensor data. "The main veteran fleet will arrive within the hour." On the main screen, hundreds of massive ships appeared at the edge of the solar system, dwarfing the initial invasion force. "Our EM grid is at 20% capacity," Dr. Green reported grimly. "We've lost too many satellites. We can't generate another full-scale disruption." Ryan Carter looked up from his console. "Prometheus estimates that the incoming fleet has enough firepower to destroy Earth's surface completely." The room fell silent. "Then we've only delayed the inevitable," the American president said quietly. Dr. Miller stood. "Not necessarily. Susan is still on their command ship. If she can transmit their command codes, we might have a chance." As if on cue, a communication came through on a secure channel. "This is Susan Ward," her voice crackled. "I've accessed their internal network. Sending data now." Information began streaming into the Earth's defense systems, veteran fleet formations, communication protocols, and most importantly, the command authentication codes. "She did it," Ryan whispered, watching as Prometheus absorbed the new data. Meanwhile, Dr. Green received an unexpected message from a secure facility on the moon. "Project Phoenix has more than one phase," she announced. "My team on the lunar base has completed the network of fusion-powered EM cannons. They were built in secret over the past 5 years." "Why weren't we informed?" Colonel Donovan demanded. "Compartmentalization," she replied. "In case the veterans captured any of us. The lunar cannons can generate an EM pulse 10 times stronger than our satellite grid, but they only have enough power for one shot." On the veteran command ship, Susan had been discovered. She ran through the alien corridors, pursued by guards. She ducked into what appeared to be a hangar bay filled with smaller vessels. "I need to get back to Earth," she thought, eyeing a shuttle. To her surprise, she found she could operate the craft using the knowledge gained from studying drone footage. The shuttle engines roared to life as veteran guards burst into the hangar. Susan launched the vessel just as energy beams sizzled past. As Earth prepared for the final battle, Colonel Donovan's forces used captured veteran technology to mount a desperate space defense. Brave pilots flew modified aircraft equipped with alien weapons, forming Earth's first true space force. From Mars, a surprise transmission came through. "This is Mars Colony. We hear you're in trouble. We've modified our mining lasers into makeshift weapons. We'll hit them from behind when they focus on Earth." Similar messages arrived from mining stations in the asteroid belt. Humanity's children in space were joining the fight. The Veshran main fleet arrived, taking position around Earth. Their supreme commander opened a channel to all of Earth's communications. Your resistance is noted but futile. Surrender now, or we will reduce your world to ash. In response, humanity unleashed everything it had. The lunar EM cannons fired, temporarily disabling the nearest Veshran ships. Colonel Donovan's space fighters attacked the vulnerable vessels, while Ryan Carter deployed a virus Susan had smuggled out, a code that turned the Veshrans' automated systems against them. From Mars and the asteroid belt, mining lasers and improvised weapons struck the Veshran rear formations. The battle spread across the solar system, a desperate last stand against overwhelming odds. Dr. Miller worked frantically in his lab, using the water discovery to develop a more effective weapon. If their skin reacts this way to water, imagine what their internal systems would do, he muttered. In orbit, Susan's stolen shuttle rejoined Earth's defenders. Her voice came through on the command channel. I've learned something important. The Imperial Overlord is on the flagship. He never leaves the Empire's core worlds. He's here to witness our subjugation personally. Colonel Donovan immediately understood the opportunity. If we capture him, the entire Empire might stand down. Susan finished. The battle reached its climax. Human fighters, operating in space for the first time, suffered massive casualties, but fought with extraordinary courage. The Veshran fleet, despite its technological superiority, found itself attacked from all sides by a species that refused to surrender. In the command center, Prometheus calculated their odds. Probability of victory, 12.7%. Probability of species survival, 38.2%. Dr. Green looked at the EYE's assessment and said, "The battle for Earth raged for 27 hours. Space around the planet filled with debris from destroyed ships, both human and Veshran. The Imperial fleet, despite its overwhelming firepower, found itself in an unexpected position. They were losing." Colonel Donovan led a final desperate mission. Using information from Susan, he assembled a small team aboard a captured Veshran vessel. Their target, the Imperial flagship, and the Overlord himself. "Remember," he told his team as they approached the massive ship, "we need him alive." Using the command code Susan had stolen, they docked without raising alarms. The small team moved through the flagship's corridors, encountering surprisingly little resistance. Most of the crew had been deployed to other vessels to replace casualties. Meanwhile, Dr. Miller's water-based weapon proved devastatingly effective. Missiles containing nothing more than pressurized water breached Veshran hulls, the liquid spreading through their ships and causing chaos as it burned through alien flesh and equipment. In the command center, Ryan worked with Prometheus to coordinate Earth's forces. The AI had evolved beyond its original programming, developing strategies no human would have conceived. New attack pattern identified, Prometheus announced, redirecting Mars colony lasers to focus on these junction points. On the main screen, they watched as precisely targeted mining lasers cut through the connection points between Veshran fleet sections, isolating and disabling them. Dr. Green monitored the battle from the lunar base, where her team had managed to recharge the EM cannons for one final pulse. "Ready to fire on your command," she radioed to Ryan. "Hold for Colonel Donovan's signal," he replied. Aboard the Veshran flagship, Donovan's team fought their way to the command deck. Using the sonic disruptors, they incapacitated the guards without killing them. When they reached the central chamber, they found themselves face to face with the Imperial Overlord. Unlike the other Veshrans, the Overlord stood nearly 10 feet tall, with 6 arms instead of 4 and skin covered in ornate patterns. He watched the humans enter with an expression that might have been curiosity. "Interesting," he said in perfect English. "No species has ever reached this far." "It's over," Colonel Donovan said, training his weapon on the Overlord. "Order your fleet to stand down." To everyone's surprise, the Overlord laughed, a strange, rattling sound. Perhaps you are worthy of something better than subjugation after all. Back on Earth, the command center received an unexpected transmission. The Veshran fleet was ceasing fire and pulling back to defensive positions. "What's happening?" Susan asked. Ryan checked the data. "Colonel Donovan has the Overlord. They're bringing him to the lunar base." Hours later, world leaders gathered at the lunar facility to face the captured ruler of the Veshran Empire. Despite being restrained, the Overlord maintained an air of dignity. "For 10,000 years, my empire has grown without meaningful resistance," he said. "You are the first to fight back effectively. The first to capture me. The first to earn respect." "We didn't want war," the American president responded. "You demanded our submission." "It is the way of the empire," the Overlord replied. "But perhaps it is time for the empire to evolve." The negotiations lasted for days. With the Overlord as their prisoner, humanity held a powerful bargaining chip. Dr. Miller's research into Veshran biology became another, as he developed treatments that could protect them from water's harmful effects. Eventually, terms were reached. The Veshran Empire would withdraw from Earth's solar system, establishing it as a sovereign territory. In exchange, humans would share their unique adaptability and scientific approaches. More importantly, Earth established contact with other subjugated species, forming the beginning of a new alliance. The Overlord, seeing the potential benefits of cooperation over conquest, agreed to reforms that would gradually free the enslaved worlds. 1 month after the battle ended, Susan Ward led a diplomatic mission to the Veshran homeworld, the first human to set foot on an alien planet. She carried with her humanity's terms for lasting peace. Colonel Donovan remained on Earth, overseeing the integration of captured alien technology with human defense systems. "Next time someone comes knocking," he told his international team, "we'll be ready from the start." Ryan Carter and Dr. Green focused on developing interstellar travel based on Veshran designs. The first human-built starship was already under construction, scheduled to launch within a year. Dr. Miller continued his research, now with willing Veshran subjects who sought to understand humanity's unique biology in return. In what had once been the Rocky Mountain Command Center, now transformed into Earth's new space defense headquarters, a simple plaque was installed. It bore words that had become humanity's unofficial motto. The Empire demanded submission. Humanity answered with fire. And in that fire, a new future was forged.